Well, confirmation from Eskom yesterday that it's now going to try and buy 1,000 megawatts of electricity from private companies that produce power for their own processes. Some mines, for example, have backup power generating facilities. Chemical companies sometimes have their own power plants as well. Dr. Roland Ngam is the program manager for climate change and socio-ecological transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. Dr. Ngam, good afternoon to you. Is there really that much power to buy? Is there that much generating capacity for Eskom to use that I can actually buy?
Well, good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to all the viewers. For about 15 years now, really, companies have been making efforts to move away from Eskom, and even before that, certainly, you have mines, paper mills, and so on, that generate their own capacity, and so there certainly is capacity in South Africa. Obviously, some of these companies will have to make sacrifices to release some of their capacity to Eskom. At the same time, also, we have countries in the neighboring countries in the Southern African region that can provide some capacity to Eskom as well. And these are all countries that are integrated in the Southern African power pool. So yes, certainly some capacity can be provided, but not a lot of it, certainly.
What I don't understand is why this has taken so long. I mean, if there's power available and we've had a crisis since 2007, why is someone only doing this now?
Obviously, Stephen, to your question, this is very strange because in his 25 July address, President Ramaphosa explicitly said that the country and Eskom certainly were going to start processes to buy excess electricity from shopping centers, from mines, from paper mills, sugar plants, and so on. And so it is very strange that for about 2 months, nothing has really happened. And then suddenly there is a crisis. The president cut short his trip to the UK to get these things done. Why weren't people at Eskom doing these things from the 25th of July when certainly the commission and the presidency identified that as a solution?
Is there a problem? I sometimes wonder if there's just a problem with how government works. No one actually knows what's going on. You've got regulation here, you've got the PMFA there, which makes it literally impossible for people to do anything, even when they know it's the right thing to do. I mean, could that be part of the problem?
I suppose President Ramaphosa has done a lot to really try and streamline the processes, creating a commission at the presidency, in terms of green energy, creating the Climate Change Commission. At the same time, also cutting red tape to import parts. Eskom knows about these plans. And at the same time, also, we have to look at maybe the decoupling processes that have started, and maybe Eskom is putting too many of its eggs in the National Transmission Company of South Africa. And pushing out the generation capacity to independent power producers. That certainly signals probably what Andre de Reja has been doing, because I have said in many fora that Andre de Reja's agenda certainly is to privatize de facto Eskom, and that explains some of the actions that we see at the moment.
Is privatisation a good thing or a bad thing, Dr. Ngam? I suddenly realise how big a question that is. We see all sorts of claims being made by opposition parties at the moment. Many countries have a sort of private system. It comes down to, we were talking to Dirk de Vos a little earlier about this, it also comes down to one national network, which I think we will probably need, because you need to ensure that the rich subsidise the poor. If you don't have that, the poor aren't going to have power. Is privatisation a big bad thing, or is it the only solution?
Well, Stephen, in his address to my alma mater, Wits University, a couple of weeks ago, Thomas Piketty said that the bottom 70% of South Africa own only 1% of the country's wealth. Now, if you add maybe another 15% of the people in the lower middle class and so on, it tells you that most of South Africa's population cannot participate in power generation, or at least in expanding the fiscus to such a level that we can have expensive energy and just expensive IPP supplying generation capacity to the country. And so that speaks to the centrality and the developmental purpose of electricity in South Africa. We should always have that at the back of our minds, that the only way South Africa really develops in such a way that brings everybody along, the government has to play a central role. And so privatization really is not the solution. In the short term, yes, certainly the upper middle class and private businesses that can create some capacity should create it, because we are going to need about 40,000 megawatts over the next 30 to 40 years. But then Eskom still has to play the number one role in energy generation and distribution in this country.
There's another issue. I mean, people have been talking about green hydrogen. So everyone's been talking about solar for a while. We talk about wind energy all the time. Some people, the minister talks about nuclear electricity. Then there's green hydrogen. Is green hydrogen really something that we should be looking at, or is that not something that's going to help us very much?
Well, I think the reason why people talk about green hydrogen is certainly because you have this debate about base load capacity versus renewables, and renewables being unreliable and so on. And so how do you store all the excess green energy when the sun shines or when there is a lot of wind? That is where hydrogen comes in. Certainly, it will be good for South Africa to expand its technological capacity and know-how beyond grey hydrogen, which the mines have been using for a long time. At the same time, we shouldn't forget that battery storage capacity is developing every day. The technology is getting better and better. Fortunately, battery storage was part of the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Procurement Program. And in the medium term, certainly we should be investing in all these technologies, because they will certainly help in mass transit systems in the future. But right now, short term, I don't see that as a solution. But certainly we need to have a backup plan, and that is part of the backup plan.
Dr. Roland Ngam, thank you, Program Manager for Climate Justice and Socio-ecological Transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. Do appreciate the time.